Okay, hello everyone, it's Draco here, and just making a very short and quick tutorial about how to get a little bit more mileage out of the weight elevator in Mission Street. Because zero cycle in Mission Street is obviously quite important to hit if you want to be saving a lot of time. Missing the cycle, saves about, or loses about 10 seconds even missing the cycle. And I think personally the biggest reason that a lot of people miss the zero cycle is because of the way that they exit the weight elevator. When you think about it, in between getting to the first checkpoint and getting to the cycle spot, there aren't really that many things that actually can go wrong in the stage on a typical Mission Street. Like, you have the movement down the first slope. Assuming you get the cage skip, which you should if you're getting a pause hover jump, then you've just got some movement between the pillars. Hopefully avoid the enemy that drops down just in your way. That is one area that people miss it on as well, but this kind of feeds into the point that I'm making here. You can actually hit that enemy and still make the zero cycle if your box break here, and especially if you're getting off the weight, is really good. So I'm going to first show how I see a lot of people doing it, which is killing their pace, actively killing their pace. So first of all, I'm going to obviously put the weight elevator down, please. There it is. So you shoot the box, and it's this switch here which causes the weight to come up. So obviously the worst case scenario is that you get a really weird collision here and you either fall and die, or you miss the weight elevator altogether and get the walk of shame. But we're assuming that that's not going to happen, so we're assuming that you're just going to get the switch and get on the weight elevator. So I see a lot of people get on the weight elevator like this, and then they walk forward and they wait on the end here, just waiting to do a hover jump off it. Seems sensible, fair enough. And they wait pretty much until the camera shifts here, because if the camera has shifted at this point, this just happens at a certain time, at this point it is definitely safe to go for the jump. But the problem here is, number one, you're wasting a bit of time from waiting for this camera shift to happen, because you can go a bit earlier than this, and also because you're starting at the edge of the weight like this, you don't have a running start, so you also don't have any speed when you start running. So you can see that, yeah, I can make that jump. And if I die, get back to there and do it again, we'll have the same result if I do it without a pause. I'm going to basically repeat what I did there, and it's yeah, I'm going to make the jump comfortably, fair enough. So again, get on here, wait for the camera, and then go, and yeah, we've made it. But I'm obviously not accounting for the cycle time since I'm starting from a restart, but this is a very suboptimal way to take the weight elevator. So now I'm going to show you the way that I say that people should be taking the weight elevator. So the two elements that I mentioned before, not having any speed and waiting on the wrong part of the weight elevator. This is remedied by one simple change. Well, it's a couple of simple changes, but the fundamental part of the trick that needs to be different is the part of the weight that you wait on. So you trigger it, you want to wait here instead. You want to wait at the very back end, because the effect of this is twofold. You use a different visual cue to know when to start running, and then once you've started running, once you actually reach the point where you do a hover jump, you'll have full running speed. So the aim of this is still to basically jump at the same time, or slightly before, so that you can just make it. But this time you're going to have full movement speed. And this saves a little bit of time. It's only a little bit of time, but the time scales involved in zero cycle aren't that large. So even if you're saving only half a second, that's quite a bit more extra time to actually make zero cycle. So the visual cue that you're waiting for is when the camera does a very slight pan here. Pretty much already past that point. It's definitely, by the time the camera shift occurs there, that's way too long. So I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to highlight, without pausing, exactly the camera pan that I'm talking about. And I've also got the input display up, because using the correct inputs to make this happen more easily and more consistently is quite important. So you want to go now, after that camera shift happens. So I'm going very, very late here. This is not to demonstrate how it's optimally done. But as soon as you see the camera perspective change there from the bottom, and it just alters slightly, you can start running at that point. So we'll just get the checkpoint here, take a death, and start piecing it together. Please let me over. Holy shit, sometimes the game doesn't want you to die. A lot of the time the game is really eager to make you die, but sometimes it just doesn't want to let you at all. That is really on the range. Alright. Can't hit the box, it's too hard. So, as far as the input display goes, what you actually want to do with the inputs, there is a specific direction that is more helpful for getting this jump. And that is just hard left on the control stick. Once you're on here, once that camera pan happens, it aligns itself a little more straight on, like this, with the weight. So at this point, you can just hold straight left on the control stick, and you will pretty much run in a straight line along the weight, and you won't actually fall off the left side of the weight. And then once the big like camera change happens, you can just add a bit of like up left, like switch to an up left angle to, you know, change the new camera angle so it looks pretty much like this. So you can see it looks like I went like super early there, and I was like asking for an accident to happen, but I didn't have a pause hover, and I still made it relatively comfortably. As for why you want to use the leftwards control stick angle, it's specifically because this second half of the weight elevator that this is coming up to meet, this does act as a regular wall. So if you hover jump and like rub against that, it will kill your momentum. So basically I'm going left on the control stick to make sure I don't hit the next part. Like, you can use up left here, but I don't like it as much because I think it carries more risk. Like, I got a pretty straight line there, so it was okay, but I've had nasty times with using up left. So I'm just going to put this all together in like one attempt now. Show exactly how this goes. So, trigger the weight here, camera pan, move, and just jump normally, and you'll make it pretty comfortably. And you're making it with max speed, and this should happen every time. I'll do it one more time, just to show like this isn't a fluke. Making it with a lot of spare height there. So this is the point where you need to actively start trying to meet the cycle once you reach this checkpoint. So clean there. So ideally what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to either punch or run into the enemy here. Yeah. So a punch is a major mistake. You can normally afford one major mistake, but with the suboptimal method, I don't know if I'm going to hit it. We'll try it. Yeah, you can see that I'm not in good time for that. This is the cycle I need to be on. Let's try and move quickly. I'll try and do the same mistake again. Trying to make mistakes. This is quite optimal otherwise, not really making mistakes here. Punching or hitting the enemy will be about the same. Okay, so another punch. This time I'm going to try and get a really good elevator exit. And you can see I'm making it fairly comfortably. And the two attempts were virtually identical, aside from that. So that in itself really shows the value of using this approach for getting off the box. It is relatively easy to wrap your head around. I honestly think it is less risky than the other method. I mean, you're going to overthink things less. You have clear cues that you're following and a clear method that you're following, and you can be more secure in the knowledge that you are more likely to make the cycle. So I really do recommend doing this. Any questions or anything in the comments, just ask or get me directly on Discord. But I really do think this method is a winner. So I hope this works out well for you guys, and I'll see you later.